Dear students, today we are going to discuss about how to configure simple network connection with different clock rates. So first I am going to create 4 computers. This is PC0, PC1, PC2 and 3. Now to connect the two PCs, use PT switch, and to connect the two switches, today I am going to use two router, that is PT router 0 and 1. To connect all the components, select automatic connection type. Okay. Then come to switch to router. Okay. So here, when we connect two routers, today we are going to use different clock rates, right? So for that, select serial DCE to connect the two routers. So serial DCE, it acts as a service provider. So the next cable serial DTE, it acts as the receiver. So here to set the clock rate, select serial DCE. From serial DCE, select serial 2 by 0 and here it's serial 2 by 0. Okay. Now before set that IP address for all the components, just I place a note what the IP address we are going to set for all the components. It's 192.168.1.2, 192.168.1.3, here 192.168.2.2, 192.168.2.3. So the first series, it's a start from 192.168.1.1. It's set for router 0. Here it's 192.168.2.1. It's set for router 1. Okay. Today we are going to use different kind of IP address for router. So just I make a difference. This is router IP. Okay. So the same IP address we are going to set for all the computers. Go to desktop, select IP config. It's a PC0 IP address. It's 192.168.1.2. And the default gateway address, it's the router IP address. It's 192.168.1.1. And for PC1, it's 192.168.1.3. The default gateway address is as it is what we set for PC0. It's 192.168.1.1. So both computer have the same gateway address. Okay, now it's coming to PC2. It's 192.168.2.2. Here it's a 2.1 as a default gateway address. 192, it's not 198, 192.168.2.1. And for PC3, it's 192.168.2.3. And the gateway address, it's 192.168.2.1. it's a router IP address. Okay. Now come to the router 0. We have to set the IP address for router 0. So go to config and select fast Ethernet 0 by 0. Make it port status should be on and give the IP address. It's 192.168.1.1. So this is the IP address we set for both PC, right? Now it's come to router 1. Select fast Ethernet 0 by 0. And here it's 192.168.2.1, right? So we set that IP address for all the 4 PC and 2 routers. It's over. Now we are going to set the serial IP address for both routers. So just I place a note. What's the serial IP address? Serial IP, it's 192.168.3.1. So already we completed 1.1 series for routers 0, 2.1 series for router 1. Now when we are going to use the serial DCE, this router 0 and 1, it will be considered as it's a different network. So just I used a 3.1 series as a serial IP. Here serial IP for router 1 is 192.168.3.2. Okay. Now the router 0, it will be considered as it's a DCE, and here the router 1, it will be as DTE. Now what it means? Who is providing the service or the service provider, it will be considered as data communication equipment. So the router 0, it's providing the service to router 1. So here the router 0, it considered as data communication equipment or the service provider. Now who is receiving the service? So the who is receiving the service from router 0, it acts as the data terminal equipment or DTE. Okay. Now we have to set the serial IP address for both routers. Again go to router and here you select serial 2 by 0. Make the port status should be on. The serial IP address, it's what's the serial IP address we mentioned here? It's 192.168.3.1, right? And for router 1, it's a 3.2. Select serial 2 by 0. Here 192.168.3.2, which is used for router 1. Okay. Now we have to set the static IP address for both routers. So already we set the IP address for router 0 and 1. We set the serial IP address, and the next step we have to give the static IP address for both routers. So just I forgot to inform one more thing here. When we set the serial IP address, now the clock rate it's displayed here. So it's how different clock rate which is available. So the clock rate, it defines the speed of your data transmission. So how fast your data it's a transfer from source to destination, it will be defined by different clock rates. So what clock rate which is required for your circuit, you can choose any one of the clock rate from the list. Okay. Now I am going to set that the clock rate for router 0, it's a 4800. Okay. So it's coming to the router 1. We no need to set any clock rate for receiver side. So in case by default it's a 1200, it's displayed here. Just I am going to make it as not set. So if it is any clock rate which is available in the receiver side, it's not an issue. Basically when we connect with the DCE to DTE, the receiver side no need to set any clock rate. That's why I mentioned it's a not to set. Okay. Now it's coming to that the static IP address for router 0 and 1. Select the router and here go to static. So already we completed fast Ethernet IP address for both routers and we completed serial IP address. Now go to static and here you have to give the static IP address for the entire network. Okay. So which network it's communicated from router 0 to router 1. That IP address we have to give for the first text box. It's 192.168.2.0. Now what it means? So 2.0 it's the IP address for router 1 side. So the router 1 it starts from 2.1, 2.2, 2.3. So this portion or the DTE, the portion it will be considered as that network address. The mask or subnet mask is 255.255.0 and the next hop it's the nearest IP address. So what's the nearest IP address here? So it's a start from 192.168.3.0. So already we said that 3.1 and 2 as a serial IP address for router 0 and 1. So here the next hop it will be considered as the nearest IP address of DCE. It is called as 3.0. Now you click the add button. It will be added as a network address and you close the window. Now come to router 1. Go to static and here from router 1 to which IP address we are going to communicate? We are going to communicate router 0. Okay. So the series is start from 192.168.1.0. So 1.1, 2, 3 is completed in router 1, router 0. So that starting IP address it's 1.0 and mask as it is 255.255.0. Then next hop it's 3.0 is already completed for router 0. Now it's 192.168.3.1. So 3.1 it's the next IP address of router 1 or the nearest IP address or from where we are receiving the services. It will be considered as next hop. Just you click add button and close the window. Okay. So what kind of IP address we set till now? So we set the IP address for all the 4 computers and set the router IP address for router 0 and 1. We completed serial IP address for both routers. The third step we have to check the clock rate and fourth step we have to give the static IP address for both routers. Okay. Now we are going to check how the message is transferred from different routers or it's a different network connections. Okay. Just I am going to place a message from PC0 to PC1. Okay. Here check the status is successful. Now I am going to give the message from PC0 to router 0. Okay. The connection is successful. And when I try to send the message from PC0 to router 1 is successful. So the reason is why I am giving that is stage by stage. You have to verify that in case if any of the place if you got the message as failed, we have to verify in which state the message is it's not passed in your connection. So within that the LAN connection we can easily transfer the data. When you try to communicate with router 0, we can communicate easily with router 0 with the help of default gateway address. When you try to communicate with 2 different networks, we have to verify that next stage, that is PC0 to router 1. And the last stage, it's come to PC0 to PC2. It shows us it's a failed. Just I am going to give one more message. Okay, still it shows failed. Just I verify that whether we gave the correct IP address for all the places. It's 192.168.2.2 and 192.168.2.1. Okay, now it's go to PC3. It's 192.168.2.3 and the default gateway address 192.168.2.1. Okay, so everything is right. Just I try to send one more message. Okay, so it takes some time to communicate in background process. So now the message is successful. Okay, just I show in the simulation window. The message is transferred from PC0 to switch 0. It reaches to router 0 and router 0 it's pass the message to router 1. It comes down switch 1. Okay, finally it reached to PC2. Now the acknowledgement it's sent back from PC2 to switch 1 and reaches router 1. As it is, we can get the message from PC2 to, that is acknowledgement message, we can get it from PC2 to PC0. Okay, alright. Now the connection is successful and the message is also transferred exactly. So the same thing, how the number of packet it's sent from either PC0 to PC2 or 3. So we will check through the ping request or ping command. So go to PC0 and here click on the command prompt. Use the command as ping. So what's the IP address we are going to set? For example, if I try to get the message from PC2, that is 192.168.2.2. Okay, just click the enter button. We try to get the message from PC2 to PC0, right? So still it's waiting. It takes some time to get the reply from different network connections. So if it is same network, we will get it immediately. In case if you try to ping the request from different networks, it may take some time to get the reply from either router 1, 2, 3, right? So still it's not yet received any messages. I will wait for few more seconds. Maybe due to some heavy load in the background process, it's also get delay from that reply. Okay, just I will do one more time. Uh, just I will check within the LAN connection. Yeah, still it's in progress. Or else go to PC1. Now I type a pin 192.168.1.2, right? We will check PC1 how the message is received from PC0. Yeah, we have to wait for long time to get the reply from PC 1 to 2. So once you got the message as successful, the status is successful, definitely we can get the ping request. Now it takes some time to get the reply. So once you got the success message, definitely when you use the ping request, it will be get the reply from the respective PC. It's not an issue. Just we have to wait for some time. So already we said one ping request for PC 0 to PC 2. So that process is also in the background. And we did the second ping request from PC 1 to 0. There are two ping requests which is running in background. So it takes some time to get the reply. It, okay, so just you work out. So what we discussed in this exercise, definitely you will get the ping request from any PC which is connected with the network. So now it takes some time to get the reply. So just I wind up the video. If you do the same thing as it is what we discussed in today's lecture, definitely you will get the reply from the uh, each PC. So how many number of packets is sent and received. So number of packet is any packet is lost. So it will be shows and what's the time taken, what is TTL, everything it will be displayed when we are using the ping request. Okay. So I hope this video is clear to everyone. So how to configure the network with the different clock rates, right? Still if you have any queries, you please post it in the comment window. Thanks for watching.